Earlier tonight on the Fox News Channel, Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani asked why Brennan still had his security clearance in the first place. Rudy?
What reason does he have to have security clearance? The only reason you would have it as an ex-official is if the government was going to call upon you for information.
Well, this government's not calling on John Brennan anytime soon.
I don't think many governments would, but the Obama government. I mean, John Brennan was not a particularly distinguished anything.
So should President Trump go ahead and wipe out the security clearances of other Obama administration officials? And why stop there? Joining me now, Ohio Congressman and Freedom Caucus member Jim Jordan. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to be with you, Kennedy.
All right, so Congressman, why do so many people have these clearances?
Yeah, they shouldn't. Look, Brennan leaked the dossier to Harry Reid. He's lost his clearance. Clapper lied under oath when Senator Wyden, Democrat senator, asked him a question. Susan Rice lied 5 times, actually, blamed Benghazi on a video. And then you could just go down the list. Comey fired, McCabe fired, Yates fired, Orr has been demoted. Strzok has been fired. Of course, these people should lose their clearance. And frankly, I don't even know why it's a debate. I agree. Why'd they have it in the first place once they've left government? If they're still in government and they've been demoted like Mr. Orr, he should lose it as well. So I don't see the big debate here. Take their clearances away from them. I think that makes sense.
Well, it's interesting because at the top of the show, I was talking to Shannon Bream about a potential lawsuit that John Brennan might bring. And you know, she said at some point it might be for defamation. But John Brennan said that the president was treasonous. And his comments, and the comments were questionable that he made standing next to Vladimir Putin. There's no doubt about that. I think they were poorly delivered, they were poorly thought out, and to a lot of people, they were offensive. That's not treason. And one of the penalties for treason is death. So is John Brennan essentially calling for the president's demise?
John Brennan is just saying all kinds of crazy things. Even James Clapper said Brennan's comments went a little too far. So when you've got a guy who used to run the CIA who lied under oath saying Brennan's saying things he shouldn't say, that kind of says something. So, I mean, yeah, he can bring any lawsuit he wants. I don't think he's going to be successful by any stretch of the imagination. And I think the president did the right thing. And as I've said, you go down that list, Clapper, Rice, Comey, McCabe, Yates, Strzok, Page, or every single one of them has either been demoted or fired. They deserve, or in Rice's example, she said Benghazi was the cause of Benghazi was a video. Every single one of them deserves to lose their clearance in my judgment. If they still have it, they deserve to lose it.
Well, it's interesting because I know people get really mad at the president for the way he delivers some of these questions. And at times the delivery is very distracting. But at the heart of it, I think there are, especially for fans of limited government, I think there are some very valid questions here. I also don't think it should be a political tool necessarily. That's why I think if you get rid of these clearances across the board, and if someone needs to be read in, and if someone needs to be granted some sort of temporary clearance in order to help a transition team or answer a question where they have deep expertise, I think that's valid. But, you know, one of Hillary Clinton's claims was that a lot of stuff is overclassified. I think a lot of people are over-clearanced.
Well, that's true. But again, this is not political. I mean, again, Clapper, he lied under oath. Sally Yates was fired. She wouldn't do what the president asked. He fired her. James Comey was fired. Andy McCabe lied 3 times under oath, faces a criminal referral. Peter Strzok, we know what he was all about, and he's been was demoted before he was fired. So this is not about political, getting back in a political fashion at all. This is simply like, if you've been fired from the federal government and you were involved in the things you were involved in, I don't think you deserve a clearance. And frankly, my guess is the vast majority of the American people agree with that.
Yeah, and so there are too many people that already have too much power that are spying on us as it is. But let's get back into politics, because the midterms are less than 3 months away. Your political future could be very interesting. However, former Trump senior advisor Steve Bannon, says that if the midterms were held today, the GOP would lose 35 to 40 seats. He wants to make the midterms a referendum on the impeachment of the president, because if Democrats do flip 23 seats, that's all they need to gain control, the likelihood of impeachment goes way up, despite fears about losing the House. The Republican National Committee smashing fundraising records. They raised more money last month than in 2010 and 2014 combined. According to the latest report, the RNC had 5 times as much cash on hand as the DNC. So what does the GOP need to do in the next few months to keep the House majority? Is impeachment and the threat of impeachment the key to mobilizing Republican voters?
It's certainly important. What we need to do is real simple. Do what we said. We make this job too complicated. What did you tell the voters you were going to do? Go do that. So when we get back, the number one priority should be to the single biggest promise the American people remember from the 2016 campaign that President Trump ran and Republicans ran is border security wall. So we should go back, put the border security wall, put that on the funding bill. Do what we said. If we do that, I think we'll be fine. I think we will keep the majority. That is the key. Remember what the Democrats want to do, though, and this is where Steve Bannon is right. The Democrats they're all about 4 key things. They want to raise your taxes, they want to abolish ICE, they want to socialize medicine, and they want to impeach the president. That is their campaign message. So that's what's at stake this November. But what we have to do is what we told them we were going to do. We've cut their taxes, which is a good thing. Economy's growing at 4.1%, lowest unemployment in 20 years. But we got to go back and build a border security wall, put that on the funding bill, do it early in September, have a month-long debate. We have that debate and we win. We'll be fine in the general election.
All right. So is scaring Republicans about impeachment your path to the speakership?
No, doing what we said is the path for Republicans to maintain the majority. If, in fact, we keep the majority, I plan to run for Speaker. And if I'm given the opportunity to lead, we will be focused on one simple thing, what I just said. Doing what we told the American people we were going to do when they gave us the privilege to go serve them. That's got to be our goal.
You got to cut spending, too.
Well, when you got a $22 trillion debt, you're exactly right. We're going to hit a $1 trillion deficit. So that's another thing we have to focus on.
Amen.
But the biggest promise they remember from 2016 was the border security wall.
All right. Congressman Jordan, thank you very much.